comprising of some a audio file, image, and videos. So we're going to, yeah, we're going to, just practice. Please, if you're not speaking, just make sure you mute yourself. If you're not speaking, Francis, make sure you mute yourself. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this simple boilerplate. So if you're using VS Code, all you have to do is this. Right now we have our boilerplates. I'm just going to so we're going to practice documents. So as I'm coding, if you have any question, make sure you drop it. You missed the last class. Okay, no problem. Just pay enough attention, and I'm very sure you would cover up with most. I'm going to do a lot of revision right now, so let's get started. So I'm going to start with talking about the link tag. So let's assume that you're trying to create a simple link that will take you to some other page. Yeah. So let's say you have like a link taking you to Google or to Topscale or to Facebook or any other website. You use the A tag. We call it the anchor tag. And I believe Moses dropped a link on the charts. So we have the anchor tag, and you put in the link as a reference. This is called the hyperlink reference. So we have HTTP. Let's do google.com. So we can close this, and we'll just say visit Google. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and I'm going to open this on the browser. So let's go ahead and click on Go Live. Okay, so we have this opened up on the browser. All right, so this is a very basic thing. I can go ahead and change this to visit Google websites. As you can see, it's changing automatically. Okay, so that is for the anchor tag. Now, most times you'll find yourself using this. We're going to come up with a very good, example towards the end of the class where we'll build something, beautiful, style it up with CSS, and we'll have a couple of links. So that is for the anchor tag. I'm going to quickly move on to the next one. So we have during the last class, I think we spoke about the paragraph tag. So where I have something like this is a paragraph. So this is a simple paragraph, and of course the size is this huge because I increased the size of my my page, so you can see it very well. So this is how you put in a simple paragraph. So let's say you have like a very long text, maybe like text as long as this. So this is a bunch of paragraphs. All right, so if you want to put in more paragraphs, you can have multiple p tags. As you can see, I'm going to break this with the HR tag, which is for horizontal row. So you have 2 paragraphs right now. We're going to put in the third one and the third text. So as you can see, we have 3 paragraphs. Okay, so let me go ahead and take this off. So we can move on to the next. Okay, so the next one is the headings. We have a couple of headings. We have this is heading 1. So this is heading 1. We have heading 1 to heading 6. I'm going to quickly duplicate this. So don't bother yourself about the speed. Basically, it's just copy and paste. So heading 3. Make sure you're dropping your questions, if any. So we have heading 4. We have heading 5. Heading 5, we have heading 6, and we have heading 6. Okay, so I'm also going to change this to 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have heading 1 to heading 6, and I'm sure as you can see, the lower the number, the bigger the size. So it's just this this is the way it's implemented as something you have to remember. Okay, so I'm taking that off right now, and let's talk about shots. Please mute yourself, except you have something to say. Mute yourself, please. Okay, thank you. So we have divisions, basically used to divide, contents on your page into several categories. So I'm going to explain this way. We have like a paragraph in here. So of course you can't see it, so you will definitely use it more when you are when you begin to style things up, right? So I remember explaining style in the last class, but I'm going to explain it again. Before I do that, let me just quickly come up with a very simple HTML, sorry, CSS style. I'm going to call this div1 and div2. So this is going to be div2. So inside div1, we are going to do background color, or maybe just background, yellow. So as you can see, we have the yellow background, and inside div2, we are going to have maybe like blue with white text. Okay, so you might be asking, yeah. So you might be asking, how do I know background is for setting the color, then the background color, then color is for setting the text color. So these are attributes, and the attributes are always constant. So use a lot of objects as an example. You have chairs. Chairs have attributes, maybe the legs, and of course, most of the chairs might be one. Some can be four. So these are just kind of like a constants that you need to remember, but it's not something you have to try to cram at this moment, because it will take you a longer time. You just have to keep practicing and practicing. There are definitely, I believe, thousands of CSS attributes, so it will take a longer time to practice. Okay, so I just explained the div. So as you can see, I used div to group these items. Let's quickly talk about some other classes. So from the link we shared with you from the Mozilla Developers and Network HTML documentation, you will discover that there are so many tags. So we call them tags, or we call them elements. So there are so many of them, and it's something you have to just take your time to read through and understand. We'll definitely give you a few assignments covering some of them, so it will make you practice more. So let's talk about data, the data elements. Okay, so I'm going to come up with a very simple. Let me take off the style for now. I think maybe you should know about the unordered list and the ordered list first. So let's quickly do that. So let's say list one. Let's say we have list one to list 5. 4, 5, 3, 2. Okay, so we have list one. So this is an unordered list. That's the UL. So every list should should come inside the UL, showing that it's unordered. If it's an ordered list, you have OL, which would in turn change it to numbers. Of course, you can also use CSS to do a couple of manipulations on this list. For now, we're not doing that, but I'm just showing you that you can definitely make this ordered or unordered. So unordered is when you have the bullets, right? So this is list 1 to list 5. Okay, so now having this unordered list, I believe we can, try to put this, wrap this inside a div. So I just wrap this inside a div. We have a very simple style for this div. So I'm going to call this the class of ordered lists. This is intentional. You can call this anything. So when you see me name my class, it's based on what I think is descriptive to that particular class. So let's do this. And now we can have a background of yellow. Okay, so now we have a background of yellow. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and add a couple of data and values. So data value, let's say list 1. Okay, so I think this is good. So I'm going to also paste this in here. Let's see what is wrong here. Well, so okay, to refresh that. That's quite strange. Okay, so I'm also going to do the same thing for the orders. I'm just going to do this for 2 items, so we won't have to waste too much time. Okay, so this is of course called nesting. So the moment you have like your first item, which is list one, you have data. You must make sure you close this div, this data element first. So it's the same thing when you're doing like list and maybe sorry, I mean like anchor, and inside your anchor you have some other items. So let's assume we have like anchor and you want to put in like a bold text. So let's say this is Google. So we have Google. So imagine you want to make Google bold. So you can use the strong tag. So you see, when I create the strong tag, this the closing tag is automatically created. So I have to pick it up and just put it out here. So you see, it becomes bolder than the way it was initially. So this is what we have by default when you use the A tag, which is the anchor tag. It looks like this. The moment you make it strong, it's looking bolder. You can also use the P tag to achieve a similar thing, similar results. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is a bit complex, and I'm taking this from the W3 school. Sorry, I mean the yeah, you can find this on W3 school. You can find this on the Mozilla Developer Network. So yeah, I found this simple styling for data. So you see, because of the items I created in here for the values, I can easily hover on it and I have ID list one, ID list two. So that is because of this style. You understand? So we're definitely going to do over and after. These are called these are just ways you can add in some kind of style to states, over state, after state. But I don't want to dive deep into that right now. I don't want to confuse. I don't want to confuse you guys. I remember during the last session, someone was complaining that this was too much. Yeah, I would just advise you to always pay attention and ask your question during the class. And also, we'll definitely try our best to break it down. Okay, so the next one I'll be talking about right now is it's called the EM tag, or the emphasis element. So let's go ahead and come up with a very simple paragraph. So I'm going to have like a paragraph here, just a small p, and I'm going to say this is a simple paragraph. During our HTML class. Okay, so during our HTML class, let's try to emphasize on the HTML class by just adding EM. Okay, so as you can see, I mean, it's just a very simple style. I think it depends on your machine, actually. It might look a bit different, but at the end of the day, it's actually emphasizing on this particular text, which is the HTML class, based on the tag we use here. So as the name describes it, emphasis, and it's used to emphasize on a particular text. So let's move to the next one. So the next one would be the quotes. So let's assume that okay, I can put it in here instead of deleting this item. So I can put it in here, just use the quotes, also end the quotes. So as you can see, automatically puts in this quotes. Of course, I did not add the quote, manually with the symbol. All I did was add the quote tag, and it automatically added the quotes for us. Yeah, so these are simple tags doing simple things. Also, we have the tag to italize your text. So let's assume I try to make this bold with B. We're still working on the HTML tag, the HTML class text. So we have B. This is bold. I can also go ahead and use I. Close it first to make it italicized. So the I is the one making it, italicized right now. So as you can see, there are lots of tags that do, that perform similar operations. Yeah, we'll quickly move on to the next one. So we have, let's talk about span. So basically, span does not really do much, by default. But you would enjoy using span, especially when you start doing some kind of styling. So for now, you're seeing, of course, span does not change anything, so we can't see the change. If I should inspect this document, like go to the developer side of this page, you would see that yes, the span is there, but of course, it's not doing anything for us now. So let me show you how you can utilize a span. So of course, if it were to be like P, it would automatically appear like in a new line. But with the span, it's on the same line. All you have to do is put in a couple of styling. You can say font size 20. Let's use 50px. Let's see what we have. So as you can see, it's looking bigger. Let's make it 30. Let's use font weight. The font weight is basically to look. So let's say use 900. So it becomes very bold. So you see, I'm not using the bold tag, I'm not using the strong tag, I'm using font weight, and I can also make this bold, of course, from the CSS. So there are a couple of things you can do here, add color, blue. You can see you have blue, you can have background color, maybe I have like black. So you see, we're actually styling just the span. So you'll begin to see a lot of use cases where you might want to use the span. You can continue with your text. Okay, on a live training. So you see, you can actually continue with your text, and you have a couple of styling in there using the span. So we're definitely going to see a lot of use cases shortly. I think we can just proceed. I'm taking this off and also taking this off. Okay, so that is for the span. I think we should talk about see. Okay, so I remember the tag for abbreviation. So there's a tag for abbreviation. Let's try to use it. So we have this is a simple paragraph during our. Okay, so let's make this abbreviation. I think it's ABBR. Okay, yeah. So during our live training session. Okay. So we're going to have, I think that's fine. So let's see what we have. So basically, when you use the abbreviation, of course, you have to make it also visible with a couple of styles. So I'm going to use this style. So make it italize. We can change the color, something. So using VS Code, once you point on this, once you hover on this, color, you can automatically make a few adjustments. So I'll make a little bit of adjustment. So you see, we're currently using the abbreviation for this. So you see that you can actually use, the same thing for a couple of things. But I think we can still add some attributes. So we can have like the title attributes. Let's go ahead and add title attributes. And we can say. Let's say we are during our live training. So let's say Discord session. Okay, so I just said during our live training, Discord session. So by default, the way it actually works is, I don't know if most of you, I think someone was asking a question the other day talking about, what I think accessibility when it comes to design or when it comes to your HTML implementation. So the way abbreviation actually works is it's more like you trying to express something, trying to express something about a particular set of character. So I strongly believe that we're definitely going to use this. You see, when I hover on this, you see we're able to see that Discord session. So it's more like making it appear on a tooltip. So in some applications, they will definitely call this a tooltip. I mean, if you have experience with like Office, maybe like Office 27, or if you are pointing at one of the items on the Office packages, it will definitely show you something like a tooltip. I don't know. Okay, yeah, I think you can also see something similar here. So you can see I'm pointing at some of these icons on this on the Chrome browser. and we're able to see some description of those items. So that is the way it actually work. So let me take this off and let's move on to some other tags. Okay, so I think we can talk about. I think I already explained. I'm trying to make sure I'm not repeating items here. I've already explained the bold tag, the strong tag, the break tag. The break tag is for breaking from one line to another. I think I also explained the HR tag, horizontal row. Okay, so what about let's say you're trying to showcase like trying to showcase like a code, maybe you as a developer, of course, you say, okay, this is a code snippets, and you have like code, and maybe you can say this dot push, this dot get elements by ID. We're going to be doing some of these things shortly. So, but this is just a random text I am putting in here. So, yeah, ID. So I'm going to close. Okay, code tag already closed. Okay, so looking at it here, I think I made the mistake on the tag. Okay, that's off now. So looking at this, you're seeing we have this is a code snippet. This dot get element by ID. You're seeing this definitely does not look like this. So right now, this is looking like a code snippet, like a real code snippet. So you can actually have like a bunch of code. So maybe you have something coming from, maybe you're pulling data from a particular place and it's a code that you're pulling and you want to present that code on the web page, you can actually use the code snippet. And there are some other ways to also, display things like that, like using the preserve tag. I think that should be like PRE. Yeah, so just take a look at the MSDN documentation and you'll definitely find a whole lot of them. I think we should be moving to something you would find yourself, using most of the time, maybe something like forms, right? So yeah, I remember. Okay, let's quickly talk about your image and videos and audios. Then we'll move to form. So I'm quickly going to show you how to create images again. You have your image tag. You have the SRC. Yeah, you can also put the ALT, which is basically used for description. As you can see, we have a very simple tooltip explaining this item. You said this attribute defines an alternative text description for the image. So let's say something goes wrong, due to bad network or poor connectivity, the image did not load. You can put a text, describing. You can say this image describes the top skill brand. So let's say we put in assets. I already have my folder, set up, and I have one image. Yeah, universe. So definitely this is going to look very gigantic. So I need to yeah, I need to close this first. Okay. So after closing this, I think I also need to reduce the height because of course it's very big. So I do heights and I have 200. Okay, I also need to close that quote. Okay, so you see I have, yeah, sorry for all these stuffs popping up. I think it's actually the plugin, the live preview plugin, surprisingly. Okay, so, um, yeah, so this is how you actually display, images and you can adjust the size. Let me take this off and try to figure out how to get rid of this. Okay. All right, so the next one is the audio tag. We're going to do just, bring in simple music. So let's do the audio tag. So we're going to have like, I think, yeah, SRC um, pointing to the source, assets, audio. Okay, then we also need to put in an attribute called the control. That would give us the control for the audio. Okay, why is this not reading? Hmm. Okay. Let's see where I'm getting this wrong. Is it control or controls? Oh, okay. Someone is asking me to zoom in on my Visual Studio Code so you can see it clearly. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm doing that right now. Okay, so I think that was a mistake. It was actually controls and not control. Oh, okay, yeah. So it was controls and not control. Okay, so I have the music player here. As you can see, you can actually set the playback speed. As a matter of fact, you should be able to download. Um, let's see. Okay, so the music also plays. So I think this is basically how you put in the audio player. So you just have to put in the link using SRC, not HREF, of course SRC, which is the source, and of course we have the extension here .mp3, and then we have our closing tag, and it just gives us this. So this is a default element that comes with HTML. You don't need to do any additional styling whatsoever. This just comes in by default. We also have the video player. I think it's we're supposed to use the same controls. So the source of the video. Okay, yeah. So we already have our control coming out. Then we put in the source of the video. Let's say, yeah, I think I have a couple of videos here. So videos, and also let's just use one .mp4. Then I save and I just have to wait for this to load up. I hope the video is not too heavy because, coupled with the screen sharing and the streaming. Okay, so we have our video. All I just have to do is play the video. Of course, it's kind of lagging. Also set the height, something similar to what we do with images. Let's move on. Okay, so let's move on. All right, so yeah, so the next item I think I'll just go straight into is forms. So now we've tried something on images, on audio, on video. So let's talk about forms, right? Let's talk about forms. So forms are very important part of your implementation, your coding when it comes to front end. You're going to be working with forms a lot. There are definitely a lot of things to consider, when working with HTML forms. Things like the input fields. You have like emails. I'm not typing right now. I'm just listening. We have like email fields. We have like we have the text fields. We have you can bring in you can even add things like placeholders so that people can see what that particular field is describing even before you put it in there. I would have loved to show you a sample of a form. So let's see. We have a simple form tag, open and close tag. The next thing we're going to put in here is our input. We're going to put in the input type of email. We're going to make it required. We are going to add a placeholder. Placeholder will tell us enter your email. Okay, so let me close that. So that is for our email. So I'm going to put another one. I'm going to say the want is text, and we're just going to ask for the name. Okay, so we have two input types. We have the email type. We have the I think it's still loading. Enter your name. You can also go ahead and even add more input fields. You can add as many input fields as you want. So, but for now, these are just the couple of fields I have opened here. I have so I just put in the email and the text. So let's assume we want to put something like like the submit field. So the submit field is basically for submitting your input. Of course, the submit field by default we're getting submit. That's because we did not change the value. We can change the value this way, and we can say submit record. So I'm going to explain some part of this. Yeah, I hope that is correct. Value submit record. Okay, bit of time to load. Okay, so we have the email field. We have the so this placeholder you're seeing here is actually the placeholder we have here. So you might be asking, I mean, how did we bring in this particular field? So you need to know that the placeholder you are seeing here is what we have here. Meaning, if I take off this placeholder, you'll definitely not see this enter your email field. I mean, you will see the field, but you won't see the text inside. The same thing applies to enter your name, and then finally we have the submit field. We have the submit button. So it's actually it's an input type. It's an input type because it's something you interact with. But we have another type of button. I would also show you that type. We have a button. I mean, by default, this is called an input. It's just a submit type of input. Though it looks like a button, it works like a button. Yeah. So, but basically, that's what it is. So I clicked on submit record and is asking me to fill this in. Reason for that is because I made it required. I made it required. So if I take off the required attributes and I try to come and refresh this page. So if the email is required, you have to make sure you add the required keyword. We can also make fields required using JavaScript to check and make sure that that particular field was filled. Like data was entered into that field. You can do those. You see the page is actually like reloading. Attributes like say if you are posting a particular item, definitely you would use something like method. So you would use method. So let's assume we're not talking about these things for now, but yeah, I mean you just need to know they are there. So we have HTTP methods like post, get, delete, and all that. Let's not go check the make sure you check the Mozilla developers net. You would find this as well. So we have like the method. We have something like on click. So on click or maybe on submit. These are just attributes. So when they submit these, what should happen? You can put in some sort of function that you've created. When you submit this, call this function and all that. So basically, I mean that is forms. There are some other advanced operations, advanced items. I mean, some people love to categorize something like the select. We have something called the select element, but I definitely will not categorize that as being part of forms. Though you use it a lot, inside the forms. So let's first, talk about actually use labels to describe. I prefer to, put this inside a div label. I'm going to put, okay, so I can say label for a particular field. So I'm going to explain that shortly. Let me close this label tag. Okay, so I can say this is the input. This is the submit field. The submit take that off, and I'm going to bring in some stuff. It can say this label in the label. Let me refresh this page. Okay, so that is happening already. Hold on. Okay, so I think I would have to use like the four. I would have to put in that option. Yeah, I really did not want to start explaining how to work with IDs for forms, but I'll definitely try to break it down right now. So let me do that. Okay, so we have like ID. I'm going to call this um, for name. Okay, I think that makes sense. Then I'm also going to put in like input ID, and I'm going to explain though using things. Okay, so using things like framework for entry name. Okay, then I also enter your. Let's assume the placeholder is add there some sort of text. You can use it. It definitely would work, but it's advised to use labels. Describe these input fields. So as you can see, we have input ID name, and we say for name. So basically, the way it works is it's just trying to create a very simple interaction between these two and trying to make the browser know that this particular label is describing this field. Even if you don't tap, even if I don't tap inside this field to make it focused, focus is when when you click on it and you're currently like um, you're currently inside your the particular input field is currently active. So this is currently active. It means we're focused. We have other type of states to describe this input field. We have blur, we have change when you're changing text. So you can always use this kind of attributes to also do your styling. But when you click on name, so let's assume I select this enter your email. When I click on name, you see that this particular input field became focused. Let me zoom in, show you well. Okay, so right now I am currently on email. The moment I click on name, this became focused. Show you again, I'm on email. I click on name, this became focused. And the reason why that is working, the reason why it's working this way is because we say the label is for name, meaning it's going to look for name. And which of these items has an ID of name? It is this particular input. So even without clicking this, you can just click on the label and it will automatically, become focused it will automatically make the input field focus. So let me take this down again. All right, so let's, yeah, so that is for input, label. I mean, you can use styling. Of course, you've seen beautiful forms online, I believe, and we're definitely going to do one of the one that's making this beautiful. We're definitely on this call. Yeah, we have the type for email. We have for text. I think we can also have for password. So let's come up with that. So we have div. We have input type password. Okay, we have let me see. Placeholder, enter your password. Okay. Then we also have a label. So let me close this first. We have a label. I need to put this. Okay. So I will say we have label. Close the label. And call this password. So now that we have called this and we said the label for password as well. I strongly believe you understand this already. So let me just go ahead and we did not, use a div to put these items. Maybe we would have everything would have been on one line. So I'm using the div to separate these items, as you can see. If you want to, maybe you have a different plan. Maybe you want to, use CSS to make everything enter, separate lines. You can also add the div. We have the label for password, pointing at the input. So we say for this, pointing at this input, and of course putting the text password. That's what we want here. So then on the inputs, we say the type we want is password. So by specifying that the type is password, the moment you type, you have this kind of password character, hidden text. So this is how you create a password field using HTML forms. Okay, so you can also have the placeholder telling the user to enter their password so they won't be confused about what to enter on the field. So we use the placeholder for that as well. Finally, we have this input type submit, which gives us this button we're seeing here. This is actually a lot for you to absorb. I strongly believe you have one or two questions, so I'm quickly going to look at the chat. Let me see. Okay, so I think Francis is assisting you with that. That's great. Okay, so this is HTML forms, and with this, I think we can talk about something else. I will just break down. Something we call a section. Section. So I'm going to take this off for now. Okay, so section. Let's see. Okay, so while I was typing, we saw a very brief description from VS Code. So the section element represents a generic section of the document or application. A section in this context is the thematic grouping of content. Each section should be identified, typically by including a heading H1 to H element as a child of the section element. So let me explain what this is saying. So we have a section, and the same way you use divs for grouping. Of course, there are different types of grouping. There are different types of elements you can use for grouping your content. I know we have things like article, for grouping, maybe like a collection of elements that make up an article, especially on blog pages. But of course, you can also use other elements like your basic paragraphs and headings. So now we have the section, and then we have maybe like div, not compulsory, not compulsory. not compulsory to use the div, but you can just put in your contents, throw in your paragraphs and all that. So the idea is they are trying to make you structure your page properly. So we have the section, and it's assumed that you're using the section um, efficiently. So let's assume you have like 3 sections, and on each section you're talking about different things. So maybe you're talking about like blog. I don't know. Let's see. You're talking about like blog, but maybe you have another section where you talk about latest gist. Okay, so these are just different ways to, to group content on the page. So, I mean, you'll be asking me, why are we using sections when we also have, divs, or when we also have, we even have something like main, for structuring content as well. I think we also have preserve. I think I mentioned that earlier. We have article and others. So basically, the section is, designed for grouping, right? The div is also designed for grouping, but I would say this. I would just, say the section is designed for grouping. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think I can say at some kind of large scale, but it all depends on, the idea behind the website or the web page you're building. So it depends on the way you think about the page. You understand? So let's assume you have a bunch of section on your page with a lot of content, a lot of grouping, a lot of subgrouping. So let's say you have a page, blog content, and right inside the blog content you have like recent blogs, you have like recent blogs, you have like past blogs, So this is where divs become handy. So you can use divs to group this kind of categories, recent, past, Um, you can now use the section to wrap the entire, because everything is still talking about one thing, everything is talking about blogs. So you can have like, each one talking about blogs, right? Each one. Oh, okay. I think I can just take this off. All right. So we have each one talking about blog. So as you can see, I used H1 to talk about blog. It's looking big and bold. They are right under the blogs. We have recent blogs, we have past blogs, we have latest gist. So this is just a kind of grouping that I think you should have in mind. Learn to structure your page very well, so that so even when you have like bots and other things crawling your page, especially when it comes to indexing on Google, I mean this would make search engines to be able to go through your page and understand the divisions or the several sections. Yeah, so I think that's one of the best use case. It's good to have good structures on your page. So let's talk about the select elements. So imagine having select elements. So I'll just come up with a very quick example, then I will explain. I'm sure you must have seen it on web pages. So let's say we have the value of, let's say dog. Dog. We have like 2 other options, cats, and okay, correctly, human. Okay, so we have like we have this select element, and this select element has like 3 different items. So of course you have seen this, and it's basically used to select items. Like from dog we selected cat, we selected human. So you can use it to have like different options. Just like the syntax. So you have the select drop down, then you have different options. Okay, so maybe if you have also experience with using Microsoft applications, you would see a lot of things like this. Over there, I think it's called the combo box. Yeah, it's called combo box, but it's similar. When it comes to desktop programming, they have a different name. When it comes to the web, it's called select elements. So whenever you hear select element, at least you know what we're talking about. And when you have select elements, you need to put in options, to specify different options inside the select element. So now we have dog. The reason why we put in the value dog is because by the time you're trying to read the data on these options, you can't read this as a data. This is just like description. This is just showing on your browser. So JavaScript will be able to this value. You understand? So you can get this value on your JavaScript. So let's assume someone is filling a form and you have like a drop down for gender. I think we can just do that. So we can have select. We have a default option. I believe we can add. We can have default. I believe. Yeah. Then we take off the value. This does not have a value, and we're just going to say select. So then you have some. Take this off too. Male, female. Maybe others. Okay, so you have something like this. So this is basically what you find on most websites. You have male, female, others. Yeah, so I think by default we're supposed to have select. Yeah, we're supposed to have select gender. There was a mistake there. We have to correct that so that to give us that that kind of description. Select gender or select your gender. So when you click on the drop down, you can then go ahead and select male or female or others. Okay. So I think that is it for the select statement, the select element, sorry, with options. Yes, so I think we've actually covered a lot. Let's also cover one more. We have the text area. Okay, yeah, I think that should be a great one. We have the text area, so let's go ahead and implement that. Okay, so the text area is basically uh, something that gives you a larger space to write maybe some kind of long text. So maybe you're trying to give a comment on Facebook, or maybe like a comment on Facebook. Um, I don't think that. Okay, yeah, you're trying to make a post on Facebook, for example. You have that kind of text field where you can type, hit enter, and it takes you to the next line. You press enter continuously, it takes you to the next line. So I think that's a very good use case of the text area. So let's see what. Yeah, so text area elements represents a multi-line plain text edit control. Okay, so I think that is okay. Text area. And inside the text area, you need to put some kind of attributes, like the rows. Let's assume we have 10 rows. Let's say we have columns. The column, of course, it describes the row and column. So in terms of like sizing, um, this is how it's measured. So let's say we have a default text. Let's close this first. Okay, so as you can see, we have the text area, and oh my gosh, it's JavaScript stuff in here. Okay, so we have the text area, so you can type in here, you can see as defined by the rows. That's why we have this height you're seeing here. You can also style this with CSS. We're definitely going to do a couple of styling on this. Yeah, so this is the text area. Basically, it's straightforward. It's simple. You can, style this and make it look better, make it look beautiful. We are going to be jumping into style. We're going to spend 1 hour on style in this session. So now we've covered a lot of things, a lot of tags. We still have more tags. So please remember to go through that link. I've repeated that like more than 3-4 times now. Okay, so some of the elements you will definitely use comprises of nav. Maybe you can use this for styling your navigation. When we start, building up, projects, definitely we're going to show you how to, work with layouts. in a more comprehensive way. Like we'll definitely do a lot of should I say custom layouts? Work on layouts with like dashboard layout, like portfolio layouts, websites, simple portfolio websites, and all that. So you use the nav for holding nav items. Then you can also have header. Okay, so what is the header? Some people always say, why are we trying to separate header from the nav? Why can't we have the header handle what you have in nav? Basically, you can actually use a div. You can actually use a div to create a nav bar. That is very possible. So what's a nav bar? For those of you that don't know, let's assume you're on a website. So I'm quickly going to open Universe. See the top screen. Okay, so while that is loading, so a nav bar is basically what you have seen on most websites, just at the top here, carrying maybe the links to different pages. Maybe you see like login or sign up, and maybe the logo. So I think this is okay. So basically, this is what the nav bar is. As you can see, this is top universe learning parts. This is the nav bar. And the next part you're seeing here, you can definitely use a section. You can use a div, but ideally, this is what you consider to be, the header, because it actually carries more, like a lot of things that really describe that first page. And of course, you can style the header. So it's just a way to structure your page, right? Then maybe somewhere, I mean, everything is still found inside the body. Remember, this is the body of the page. So you can use a section to hold everything, and possibly style the section by giving it some margins. So maybe like the distance from the beginning of this page down to this point, and also from this point at the end. So you can actually use padding for that kind of styling. Then this area is your header. You have the nav. Then you can use sections to demarcate different areas of this page. So for example, we can say this area is one section, this practical experience with superb instructors. Then you have like these areas for maybe you have like a div. This can be a div. This practical learning experience with superb instructors down to this point can be one div. Then this can be another div holding just this image or maybe a couple of images. So you can have this as maybe another section. You can have this as another section. So that's just the grouping we've been talking about. Have different using sections to group. So when you group with the section, you can use a div to wrap these components, and within the div, you have like the image, you have the text, you have the button. Okay, so I think that is enough. Yeah, so that is basically how you group this page. You can also have the footer. I didn't show you an example, but basically a footer is always at the extreme bottom of your document, and you put in things like of course links. Maybe you can also put in your logo. You can put in your social links. Social links, the links that take you to your social media pages. So I think it's just a way to group your page and understand what you've done. So when you come back to your site and you're trying to look for a certain item, you won't be confused. It's always good to have a proper structure. And as a matter of fact, you can now put in some sections here. And I would always advise, when you have sections, you can use ID to describe those pages, those sections. Even if you're working with divs. So depending on the complexity of what you're building, learn to use these kind of elements to group your page. So you can have like I always do this. I can say this is the let's say the hero section, and I put a comment. I put a comment with a shortcut control slash. You can just automatically put this comment. So I can put this guy, put this section there in here. So you can see inside here we have this. So remember, the header is not the head. So let's not confuse the header for the head. So inside the header here, I can put in this section, and I can just put like a simple ID, and I can call this hero. So maybe I want to style hero. I can actually use CSS, to style hero. I can use JavaScript to add in some kind of manipulation, behaviors. So yes, we're definitely going to start doing some complex, some simple styling stuff using CSS. So let's quickly let me look at the chart and answer a few questions. Okay, so I don't think you have messages, so which means I believe you're following and I believe you understand um, what I've said so far. Let's work with a little bit of styling. All right, so I have the main CSS file. All I have to do right now is I'm going to split this to the right. Okay, so we can see our style and at the same time see the HTML page. Okay, so the first thing you have to do when you're trying to use external files for your CSS is to basically bring it into the HTML document. So I'm going to use link, also going to have rel, and the rel is an attribute. It means relationship. Towards the relationship between this document, between the style, or between this particular document and this document. So of course, this is the relation. This is a tile sheets. So we can actually use link to also bring in some other things like fonts, some other things like icons. So let us uh, let us call this assets. I'm going to move this into a different folder right now. So I'm going to call it CSS. Okay. So we have assets, we have CSS, we have main.css. Okay, so we have our link. We can just create a couple of styles and just test them. So let's start with the p tag and let's do something like this is a paragraph, simple. So we're going to style P. So remember, in the last class, I told you by default, you're actually supposed to use dots. The dot notation here to describe is a selector. So these are CSS selectors. So you use the dots, and I can call this like paragraph. We just created a class for paragraph. You can also use hash paragraph. Paragraph. Yeah, and spell again. Okay, paragraph. So let's call this paragraph 2. So when you use this, basically this is a style selector as well. But by using this, it means you're going to, if you use the class paragraph, okay, then next you use this. Okay, so when you use this, you are definitely going to reference. I think this should be ID. Yeah, basically an ID. Okay, it means you're going to reference the selector using the ID. When you use this, it means you're going to reference it using the class attributes. So of course, we can start styling this like putting in changing the color, changing the font size, changing margins, paddings. We're going to come up with a very simple design so we know what we are doing. But for now, let's just change this to like green just to see if this is working. Okay, so we have like blue. This is 2. Okay, so okay. Did we make any mistake on our code? Mm, paragraph and okay, so surprisingly, I definitely believe I must have made a mistake somewhere. So let me try to fix this. Where is this coming from? Style sheets. Hmm. Okay, let's do this. Just to verify what is going on here. Okay, so I know this works. Um, see. Oh, okay, okay. So I think I did not save properly. Oh, that was a problem. Yeah, so I saved the CSS file, but I did not save the HTML document. So let's go ahead and bring this back in. Yeah, sometimes these are some of the mistakes we make. Unfortunately, my code editor does not save automatically. I did not set that, but it's possible to have that set. So I'm going to put in the color again, green. So let's save properly now. Let's see. Time to refresh. Oh, okay. Another mistake. Sorry for this, please. Paragraph. Okay, so we have this is a paragraph with the color green. Okay, so yeah, made a couple of mistakes there. We're going to try the same thing. Paragraph 2. This time we're going to use color of blue. So this is basic. I have a design opened here. So as you can see, we have blue. This is a very simple example. So let me just do a very basic, explanation about different modes of using CSS in your file. I remember explaining this during the last class. I think I have to do it again. So we have the external CSS. We have inline CSS and internal mode of linking up CSS to your documents. So inline CSS is when you style this inside the elements. That is inline. So let's do style. Then we can have maybe like font size, maybe like 40 px. Okay, so remember, just an example. You can see we have this a paragraph with inline style, 40 px. Okay, so that is for inline CSS. So this is for internal CSS. Okay, so we have P style. I'm just going to call this P style, and then we have maybe color of yellow and font size of 40 px. Okay. So this is for internal CSS. Remember, you have to put in the style, and you have to call the class. Okay, so basically what will happen here is this class will override the inline CSS. As you can see, it is overridden. Though if you add in some attributes here and the attributes are not here, definitely you can leave the two. You can also take off one. I mean, it's not compulsory to have the two. So this is style. Okay. Okay, we have this showing up again after refresh. Okay, so as you can see, this is it. You can change this to green. Of course, you are still going to have it changed on your browser. So this is internal CSS. Then finally, what we've done here is the external. So this is external CSS. This is how you put in your internal CSS. Have the inline CSS. All right, so this is it for the different modes of using, like working with sections and divs and trying to create something very simple, something that looks more like a card, like a card. Of course, there's no way we can explain every single attribute. As I told you earlier, there are thousands. So the thing is, as you practice, you get to know them, you get to see what you need, and from there you understand some of the basic things that you'll be using most of the time. So definitely you will get to. It depends on what you're building, though. But if you do websites regularly, you will discover you're going to be using a lot of margin, padding. If basically what you do is just support the front end guy in one way or the other, then maybe you might not be touching some of those things, but you might be doing some other kind of stuff, maybe like organizing the tags or the elements on that page. But as a front end developer, you're going to be doing a lot of margin and padding. So let us go ahead and create image tag SRC. Before I put this in, I'm going to make sure I wrap this in a section and then in a div. So I'm going to show you what I'll do with this. Ask your questions. So we have the image, we have assets, we have images. Okay, we have heights. I'm going to use 100 pixels, just 100. So I'm going to also style the image with CSS, so you see how it works. So now I'm just going to make it style of 50px. Okay, so next I'm going to add a class. I'm going to call it a simple card. Okay. Now we have the paragraph, but before the paragraph, let me go ahead and put heading 6, and I'm going to say our heading. And I'm going to make the text even more. All right, so this is what we have. Let's refresh. I think that heading is too small. So yeah, we can also style the heading. So let us go ahead and style some of these items. Let's start by styling the heading. Let's also put in the width. Let's have a very reasonable width instead of allowing this run across down to the end. So I'm going to, right, so let's create a style for simple card. I'm going to take out the internal CSS and we'll have to do the external file. So let's start with simple card. And let's do a width of maybe 400px. So this is 400px. Maybe that's too much. Let's give it at 300. All right, so this is 300px. I'm also going, now we are styling the card. So remember, look at the position of the card, simple card. This is wrapping the entire item, which means any style we add to this is going to affect, generally everything inside. So now we have 300 widths. So when I mean affecting everything inside, I don't mean affecting the attributes or, affecting the colors of the text. I mean, this is more like, it's bound. So this bounding these other items. So this is going to affect, the style is going to affect like, more like a frame. It's going to consider this to, act more like a frame. So let's continue. Background color. Change this. All right, so I'm going to explain the concept of padding and margin right now. So, all right, so what I just added here is a simple padding, and I said 40 pixels. So if you see what is happening now, we're using CSS. This created a space or some kind of spacing it created this spacing like inside the card, and of course I'm calling this a card now because that's what we're trying to implement. So but remember that this is just a div. Looking at our document here, it's a div. So by adding padding of 40px to this simple card, which is of course the class, it created a space inside, you understand, inside and not outside. So the margin would create a space outside and the padding would create a space inside that particular element that is that your style is placed on. So right now, our style is placed on this element, which is, if you can see the blue background, let me make it more visible. Blue. Okay. Okay, so if you can see the blue background, so we have the space inside the card. All right, and of course you can actually make this is even more complex than this. I mean, when it comes to padding, you can also have like trying to talk about different sizes. The top is taking up 40 px, the left and right is taking up just but the top and bottom is taking. You can even do more than that, and try to set different padding for different areas. Maybe like one side is taking up 5 px, one side is taking up 10, one side is taking up 40, and the other side is taking up 10. So you can have another one. This is just a way to. I mean, we're definitely going to talk about this like in detail, so you explain, you understand, when to use which. But for now, we're just making it default. Every angle is taking up 40 px. So we also have something called border radius, and maybe we can set this to like 50 px. Let's see what we have. Okay, so this is 50 px. Of course, this card is very ugly, but as you can see, CSS is currently doing its work. So as a matter of fact, we can add, of course, the body. So this is describing the entire body of the page. You can add a background color. I'm even going to make this look. So we'll see black. So automatically, you see I've changed the background color of the page. So this is not magic. This is code, right? Background color black, giving us the black background. Okay, so let's make this So I just changed this to 20 px. I'm going to set a different font. So by now we are seeing we have like, this is just the default font of my browser. We're going to use something to let's do what we call font family. Okay, and I'm just going to use one of the fonts I have on my laptop called, I think it's called Poppins. So now you see we have a font called Poppins. So another thing is color is not looking so good, right? So I'm going to point at H2. Let's point at H2 and let's use a color of white. So as you can see, H2 currently has a color of white. Let's try to make our image a bit bigger, but this time I'm going to make it bigger using CSS. So by calling the image tag, just like what we also did to H2, we did not specify a custom class. We're using the default, I would call it like the handler, right? Or the default class. And this default class is going to affect every single H2 on the document. If you use a custom class, then definitely you can target that class to a particular H2, right? But now that we're using the default, it's going to affect. So if we have multiple H2 elements on this document, it's going to affect all. So for now, let's continue image, which is, I'm going to set height of, let's use 140 px. So by default, you see what happened here. It's increased to see the entire page very well. So now I just made it 100 px. So we can go ahead and take this off. All right. So now we have this image, 100 px. You can also set the width. There are definitely like tons of properties you can add, but for now we're still making it simple. I mean, that's why it's called a simple tag. So let's proceed by the paragraph. Let's try to change that color to white. So as you can see, this is what we have. For the paragraph, you can also touch the font size if you feel this is too 15 px. All right, so this is 15 px for the size. You can reduce it if you want to, as you can see. So now we have our custom card, very simple card. No complexity at all. Assuming we want to place this on the center of the page, That is why I created the section. So we're going to do something very simple at this point. Basically, I would use things like flex or grid, to add more kind of structuring or arrangement, of this layout. Yeah, but for now, I'm not going to do that. So instead of using the class, let's just tie the section that. So what I'm just going to do here is to say, my section has a width of 100%. Now, what does that mean? It means the section actually runs across from here down to the end. If we say 100 px, of course, you can't really see that right now. But if we go ahead and add like some sort of background color, so you see the section is actually like, behind this card right now, but you see it's no longer covering the whole, like the whole page, or it's not even covering a reasonable amount of area. It stops somewhere, probably around here. And of course, it's behind because, I mean, that is the, it's at the extreme top in your code. So these items will come forward. This one would also stay on top. So the more you have items inside other tags, which are referred to children of the parent tag. So this is a child of this is a child of this. They appear in front. So I'm just going to set the weights of 100%. So what I just explained now is, the default, but you can also, with CSS, you can do a lot of things, right? So you can, use CSS to change the position of things using a attribute called z-index. But for now, that is kind of complex. So let's stick to the basics. So now we have the section, and maybe all I can do here is to say margin. Yeah, let's see. I think it's better if I'm not going to explain, deep down about the grids, like using displays and using positions. We're not going to cover that, right now, but I'm just going to do that for the sake of trying to, put this in the center. I'm also going to put the heights, at least so you see how some of the attributes here are working. After putting the height of this is section, remember, our body, of course, does not have a default height, so we still need to put in the height of the body, 100%, and let's also leave the weight at 100%. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this. Place items. Okay, so this is this is kind of not what I intended to explain in details today, but it's called a grid. It's a display type. We have multiple display types, inline, blocks, and the rest of them. I mean, this is one of my favorites. I actually use this, for a lot of positioning. So we have a display grid, and I said place items center automatically. That means I changed this entire section into a grid. And the moment I say place item center, it brings every item inside, which is the child. The section is the parent. The div is the child. So it brings that div like to the center of the document. So yeah, of course, this is looking very ugly. So let's go ahead and see what I wanted us to work on, something not very complex. So this is actually going to require us to do a lot of positioning, layouts. You've not learned that. We're going to pick like the easy part of this design. So let's go ahead and start. I think I'm going to take off. Let me just minimize this, to avoid distractions. I'm going to take off this paragraph. So this is work with us and forget about. All right, so work with us and forget about others. Okay, so I'm not setting up that particular font. I don't want us to go ahead and spend much time on the design tool, but I'm going to just select some of the default options I have on my laptop. I think Poppins was not a bad idea, or maybe Inter. Okay, so I don't have Inter as a default font. Let's just stick to Puppets. All right, so one other thing is, this is, black. So this, we're going to remove the background. Let's just leave it, as default. Pick up the yellow. So now instead of keeping the yellow on the simple card, we're going to, leave this as white, and we're going to have what we call the border, not background. So we have the border. I'll just use 1px solid black, and I'm going to explain. That. So let's just leave this. And also, this is px, not p. All right. So what I just did here is, I removed the background color. The text is still here, though you can't see it. I'm going to change the color. I think I should just go ahead and change that to black. Okay. So I still have to refresh. Oh, okay. Did I save this? Oh, yeah, sorry. I changed the color of the P, but we're not using the P, we're using H2. So this should be color of black. Okay, I'll take off P to save. All right, so now what I did here basically is, border. And on that simple card, I used border 1px solid black. Now, 1px is talking about the width of the border. So let's change this to 5px. You see what's happening? Let's change it to 20. So you see that the border becomes, even more solid than it was earlier. So I'm going to bring this down. Let's stick to like 2 or 3px or even 4px. All right, this is fine. Let's drop the border radius even down to 10. Okay, so I think this is still good. Okay, I think I mistakenly clicked on something else. Okay, so now we have a border radius 10px, the padding. Remember I said the padding was, so let's try to simulate the padding so you see what I mean. I'm going to drop this to 20px, and you see the space inside becomes even smaller, right? So make this like 50px. You see it becomes even wider. So the padding is just describing or trying to work on the space inside that particular element. So you can add a padding to a section, to a div. It's just used for making sure you have the right spacing. I'm going to duplicate this item, which is the section. So we're going to have another one appear right under. Okay. So as you can see, we have another simple card. The thing about this simple card now is they are both, meeting at this point. I mean, this definitely might not be what you want. So you might want to put in some kind of spacing, and this is where margin comes in. So I said it earlier that margin would give you like space around. So let's put in margin. Let's first put the semicolon. Always remember to put the semicolon to terminate that line and move on to the next line. So at this point, I can put margin. I can decide to specify if I want margin top, margin left, margin bottom, margin right. But ideally, all I want right now is margin bottom. And I put maybe like 20px. So as you can see, we have the space in between, just 20px. And I was able to achieve that using margin bottom. What if I use just margin? We still have that space, but now it gives us the space even on top, the left, the right, and as well as the bottom. So you see, now we have two cards on our page. Simple cards, go ahead and add, multiple components, to this. You can add paragraphs. You can use a span. So let's try to use that span. So we said work with us and forget about others. So let's try to let's change this and let's call this top skill. Work with top skill and forget about others. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a span in here just to give a of context to this to the text we have inside each tool. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to also put it here. All right. Okay, so also take this T off. Okay, so now I mean the span doesn't change anything by default. So now let's go ahead and style the span and see what we can create from here. So as you can see, our CSS file is getting a little bit bulky. I mean, we're just starting, but definitely with time, you're seeing it's going to become extremely lengthy. So you just need to make sure you're using the right class names so you won't have any issues trying to remember, okay, what did I use for this area? What did I use for this other area? So this is where good naming conventions come in. This is not, it's something you have to think about and make sure you do the right thing to avoid having issues later on. So when I mean naming conventions, you can decide to come in here and, some people will definitely do this. I personally think it's not the best practice. Maybe like calling this second card and commenting on this. I definitely don't think this is the best thing to do. I think you can just group these items using ID, second card, or you can of course use like the underscore. So I think it's up to you. It's up to you. Okay, so but I mean, for my own personal advice, use IDs so that you'll be able to track things well, and you can also use JavaScript to you know make to add some behavior to that particular item. So I think what we're trying to do is the span. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have span, and I can just say the color of the span. Give us white color, and for background, give us black. And finally, we have a tiny bit of border radius. Maybe 10, that might be too much. So let's use like 3px. So you see what we have? We don't have a very good decent, we don't have a decent amount of spacing. So let's put in a tiny bit of padding, 5px. All right, so this is what we have. I don't think it's bad. I think it's just showing level of context. Maybe we should try a different color. Okay, so I don't think this is a bad design. So work with top scale, and so this is just showing a level of context, and forget about others. So you can use span, to add a couple of styles, inside or within, like maybe your H1 tag, your paragraph, even inside the divs. So let's assume you have a custom div. You can definitely do a lot of things in there, a lot of styling. What I'm going to do right now is yeah, we're going to just customize a tiny button here, which would say get started. This time we're using the button tag, so we have get started, and yeah, I have to move it into the cards. So inside simple cards, get started. So we have to get started buttons. Let's see what it looks like on our page. Okay, very simple, very straightforward. Get started. Yeah, not bad, but I think we can style this now. So let's quickly style button, and let's see what's the best color to give. Okay, so I think I will stick to the background color of black, and the text color which be white. So let's see. Okay, so we can take up the border. So by default, you can see this button has some border around it. So let's take it off. All right, so now it's flat. We don't have any border. I think we also need to give it some level of padding. Padding is always good. So, okay, so I think we can also increase the padding. All right, so this is a decent size for a button. Yeah, so something is kind of off. I mean, we can also add the border radius. So as you can see, I'm just using, a couple of things, just thinking about it, and trying to check. You don't need to cram these things. You just need to know when to bring them in. You know, so of course, you want a border radius. Here's the border. Your radius is just at the the corners. Same thing we used here. We also used here. Yeah. So let's go ahead and also use 5px. Let's see what we have. Okay, I think I'll just make it 10. So I mean, this is basically how developers do their thing. They just except you have what to call a design spec. A design spec is that particular design that the designer in your company gave to you. They hand it over to you, and of course, you can change a couple of things. You can decide to say you're not comfortable with the red. You just want purple, and of course, that's also work. Let's see what we have. All right, so this is what we have. So this is a very simple design, as I said earlier, and it's just a card. It's not something complex. You can, add images, avatars. You can put in some items that makes it even look better than this. So this is simple. This is basic. If you have the questions, let me quickly look at the chat. So I think a lot of you, understand some of these things I'm doing, or maybe you don't find them challenging enough yet. So that's great. Please, if you have questions, go ahead and ask your questions now so it can be resolved. So this is very basic. Let's go ahead and maybe add some sort of background color. So I'm going to, background image. So I'm going to come in here, background image. So we use a URL. So we don't have any image right now, like inside this I think we have one image, but that is just the avatar. Okay, let's just go ahead and use that first. So I'm going to try, to locate this. So I can't call assets directly from here. Remember when I was teaching you how to locate, file paths? The reason why I'm able to call assets directly from here is because of the location of the index.html document. Of course, assets is just right here. Let me collapse this. So assets is just right here. So I can just call it directly. But, when we called the main.css, of course, we also started with assets, but we had to go, deep down into assets, CSS, main.css, right? So, but now we are in the main.css and we're trying to access this image and we are inside a different directory. So basically, you have to come out of that directory at least one step. So now we came out one step and we're seeing we have images and then we have the universe image. So this is not going to look so good, of course. There are a couple of adjustments you can do to this image. Something like the background size. And we can do cover. All right, so background size cover is basically going to cover the image. So it's going to we have background size cover, we have background size contain. This is not the best background for this, so definitely we don't want to have such a bad background. So let's just go ahead and bring in a very simple image that we could use. All right, so I just added a simple image to our and of course we don't have it in the right folder yet, so we need to move it into. All right, so now we have the image in our images folder. Let's go ahead and close this, and let's add our styling. All we need to do is call the right folder, call the right file. So I think this add from space. I think that's the name. All right, and we have the image, on the background now. So we can use other attributes, to try to fix the position of this. There are a couple of attributes, background attributes like background repeats. If you have some images that tend to repeat. So what I mean by repeat is, of course, for this we can use none. If you have some images that tend to repeat, let's say we have a picture that is not so large, and then when you set it as a background, maybe it repeats like multiple times because it's trying to make sure the image covers everywhere on your background, then definitely you can use background repeats none to adjust the size of that image. You can use the background repeat none to turn off the repeats. Then you can use background size to probably cover the entire page. Using cover, which is what I did already. You can use cover. You can use contain. It all depends on what you're trying to do, and of course, you have to test them to make sure you arrive at the use case. You arrive at the design you are really trying to implement. So let's go ahead and probably change one more thing. I think we need to change it. I think that should be the H2. Now that we have a background, I think it's better if it's white, and also our button. So you see, design has changed because of one tiny bit of adjustment, which is the background. So I think this is okay for now. I think it's high time we talk about something else. So the color of the button, of course, should be black. All right. So this is a very simple design, as you can see. Nothing very complex. Okay, so let me see. Maybe we should talk a little about like using the style. I'm sure some of you might want this particular stuff, so I'm just going to create a new page. So I won't alter the design here. Okay, so I'm going to create a new page. I'm going to copy and paste this file. I'm going to call this index2. Okay, so we are going to come up with a very simple contact page on index2. Or maybe I can just call it contacts, right? We're going to come up with a very simple contact page. We'll add some styling. Let me go ahead and close this. Okay, so we're also going to create a new style. I don't want to, have too much style on one file alone. So we're going to create a new file. We're going to call this contact CSS. And of course, we're going to be faster because I believe, since there are no questions, I believe you guys understand what I've done so far. So let's create a contact page. So I'm going to call the title contact page. We're going to be this fast. So let's see, contacts.html. All right, so this is our contact page. Right, so we're going to have the body of this page. We're going to style the section. Oh, sorry, a section. And maybe contacts container. Okay, so you see, I'm creating a bunch of class, and I'm just thinking of what I'm going to put in here. I'm already creating the classes, and you might not understand. So let me explain that part now. I already know that I'm going to have a section. I'm going to use a section, and I'm going to set some kind of width so that our text would not touch the extreme end of this page. So this is what I mean. We have like a width of 80%. By default, the page is 100%, so I'm making it 80%. I'm going to set margin 0 or 2. Now, margin 0 or 2 will actually position this section properly in the center. Let me set a color, a background color, so you see what we have now. Yeah, I'm still going to go ahead and use yellow. Okay, so of course we don't have any content in here, so definitely let me go ahead and style the body. I'll just say height 100%. So now that I have 100% in here, let's see if I can just say hello. What are the tag? Okay, yeah. So remember, we've not added the link, href. We have assets, right? We have CSS, and we have contacts. Okay, so rel, we have style sheets. So we're able to link this particular style to our documents. And now you can see we have the width we added to our section. So this is the width. Of course, we're not leaving that yellow there, but you just need to understand we wanted this space and now we have the space. But we can go ahead and put a background on the body. Not compulsory, but I mean it's something you can do. So let's come up with something good. We're not just designing any random, bad page. So inside the section, I'm going to add each one contact us. Let's see what we have. Contact us. Okay, so I think we have, yeah. So let's go ahead and change the font family. So, all right, so now we have contact us with a better fonts, contact us. So now we can, put a few details. So I'm going to add a form, but before I add the form, I'm just going to, put a description paragraph, of course. All right, so we have a description talking about our business. Let's assume we have multiple descriptions, right? So you can also have multiple forms in one document, and I'm going to show you an example. So now we have another paragraph. All right, so now we have two paragraphs, and our each arrow is not looking, so good. So let's see if we can style this as well. Okay. So can we style this? Is it even possible to style the H arrow? I think this should be border. I guess so. Now maybe it should be like background color. Let's see. 1px solid red. Oh yeah, okay. So we can use that 1px solid red. Let's leave it at black. Okay, this is great. All right, so we're able to have this now. We don't have any image here. I think maybe we should put in, a very good image. So let's put image src. We don't have this image right now. I'm going to bring this image in. Assets, images. I'm going to have the ALT contact us image. Okay, so we have the contact us image. All right, remember we don't have this image yet, so that's why you see the contact us image, which is the alternative text, because the image is, of course, nowhere to be found. So I am going to just randomly make one of these items bold inside here. So let's see, we're supposed to have just this item bold. Okay, good. So that works for us. Okay, so let's say I'm going to bring in the image, remember, so we have P. So I want to show you that you can actually have multiple style working on the same, style working on different elements, even though they carry the same kind of P tag. I hope you can still hear me. Okay. 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 Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to have let's say this is a contents page. If anything goes wrong, I think some people are. Is there any question for me? All right. So we'll call this contact paragraph. It's a class, so we use the dot selector. So we have color green. That's random color selection, nothing serious. So you see we have it there green. So let's go ahead and change the font size MPX. So I believe some of you already understand what we're doing here, and styling should not be a big deal. It's just you trying to understanding what you need to do. So let's go in here and just bring one image. So please start dropping your questions if you have any. So I'm going to change this image to company, so it would have the name we use for the text, right? So company.png. All right, then now I can bring the image. I can just all I have to do is click on the image and drag it into the appropriate folder, which is the images folder. Okay, so once I have it inside the images folder, I can go back to the contact page, save. Now we have our image inside our browser page, but it's very big. So we need to fix that. And of course, we need to fix that. Let's give it a class and let's call it image, or let's call it company image, right? Okay, so now let's go to the contact CSS. So company image, and now we can set the width. We can make this 100px. Let's see what we have. So of course now it's looking very small. I'm just going to leave it at 300px height. Height. You can also customize the height, but I mean once I have the width, I think that's enough. Can set border radius. Okay, so I think that should be all for this particular session. So please, we've not done anything, extremely complex. This is still a very simple page with just a very simple image. And, going forward, we're definitely going to, have a design spec. So we have like a design from maybe Figma or some other tool, and we try to look at it to, clone or recreate what the designers have created. So we're definitely going to do a lot of practicals, and yeah, from the links you received on HTML and CSS, kindly go through, take your time, and do a lot of practice. We're going to drop some assignments. So somebody is asking, please, was the class shifted from Tuesday to Thursday? Please check the timetable. You have 2 sessions, in a week. Please check the timetable. Okay, so I think if you have any question regarding, what we've taught so far, I am very sure, we did a lot, and I mean, it might look too much, but you don't have to, worry. You'll definitely get a hang of it with time. So if you have any question, please go ahead and drop your question on the chat. We have people on the chat that would, answer your questions. From the next session, we're going to do a lot of layouts and, display, where we start working with grid. And I also think we're going to do, we're definitely going to do Tailwind, utility classes, utility CSS. So just drop your questions based on what we've done. We've not, I think we did cover some things, but I still think they are pretty basic. So if you have any issues or there's something you don't understand, feel free to, ask your question at this point. Let's resolve that and call it a day. Okay. I'm going to zip up this file, this project, and share with you. Let's do that. This should be HTML. Yeah, HTML. Okay, so we just have oh my God, I think this file is too large because of the amount of videos, I guess. Yeah, so I think there are lots of videos in here. I'm going to take them off. I think we only used one, so I'm going to take them off. So now it's just 9 MB. Yeah, so it's actually 9 MB, I think, because of the size of the images. So I think that should be all. Yeah, so if you have any question, drop your question on the chat. Someone will respond to you. And tomorrow, I believe you will receive a little bit of, take home assignments. So I think that should be all for now. Thank you very much and have a wonderful night.